Two things you want to know if you're going to create wealth. And don't be caught up in this catch. Well, money's not everything. Money's not everything. Of course it's not. But there's nothing that will compare with it. It's something you can measure. You can measure it to the penny. That's very important. It's not like your health. You can't measure your health. You say that's more important than money, but you're talking different things. You can go to a doctor, and a doctor can give you a clean bill of health and walk out and drop dead. That's happened to lots of people. So you can't measure that. But money, you can measure it right to the penny. You'll know if you're doing better. Money's not going to make you a better person. Money's going to make you more of what you already are. If you're not a nice person, you'll probably become despicable. If you are a nice person, you're going to become a lot nicer, because money is a magnifier. Money is an instrument that enables you to extend the good you can do far beyond your own presence. When Sandy and I decided that we were going to give money to Cynthia's organization, then we got excited about it. And we just keep upping the ante. But the kids that are getting educated, they're getting clean water, and they're getting nutritious food and proper medical, and they're getting educated, and they're excited going to school. Thousands of them now. That makes me feel good. I've got a picture in my office that I look at frequently where all these little kids are reading our books and studying our material. Well, there's two things that you have to know if you really want to create wealth. One, you have to know where you are, and the other one, you have to know where you're going. And then you got to get moving. Now, that is so simple. You see, it's like U squares. U squares is a simple concept. It's beautifully written, but it is a very simple concept. This is so simple, you have to ask, why are so many people stuck? Yeah, they're stuck. They're clearly stuck. They're getting the same results now as they were a year ago. I remember dropping by my aunt and uncle's house. They're gone now, God bless them, but I used to drop by there and visit every now and then. They had a whole house full of kids, and he was working overtime every night trying to make enough just to get by. Didn't have a car, had to go all the way across Toronto, big city, on public transportation, worked overtime every night just to earn enough to get by. Lived a very ordinary life. I dropped by one Christmas, and they're rushing around to get credit cards in all the big stores so they could buy the kids Christmas presents. And I remember Don saying, well, never mind, next year will be different. And I looked at him, I said, you want to know something, Don? You're full of crap. Next year's going to be exactly the same as this year because you never change. I said, don't start that stuff on me, Proctor. I said, why don't you change? He knew I changed. I changed like night and day. He knew me when I was losing. Now, they were paid every 2 weeks. They had budgeted to live on this pay. So 3 times a year, he got 3 pays in a month. That third pay was always an extra pay. They decided they were going to come to a seminar. I was doing seminars at the Hyatt in downtown Toronto every Tuesday night for 8 weeks. 2.5 hours a night, 3 hours a night for 8 weeks. I made them pay to come to the seminar. They thanked me right up until their death for making them pay. I knew if they didn't pay, they wouldn't keep coming. But I knew that money meant a lot to them. And I knew that they just couldn't permit themselves just to throw it away. So every Tuesday night they'd come. Ed Mark said, for 3 weeks I had no idea what you were talking about. You're talking about spirit and vibration and all this stuff. I knew nothing about any of that. But then one day you said, I want you to write a list of everything you want. And she said, I couldn't think of anything I wanted. I had not been thinking of what I wanted since I was a young girl. It was always, what's Don want? What's the kids want? never what she wanted. And she said, when I started to write, I couldn't stop. When they died, they had their own business. They were billionaires. They had a beautiful home in Florida, as well as the one in Toronto. And the family still run the business. Everything in their life changed because they changed their thinking. People say, oh, well, that thinking stuff. The thinking stuff is very important. Thought is the most potent form of energy there is. Thought waves would make cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. Thought makes the laser look puny. Do you know that your thoughts, the thoughts you think, they're everywhere at the same time? Thought is everywhere. Thought waves are cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. I had the good fortune of working with Captain Edgar Mitchell. He was the captain of the lunar landing module on one of the Apollo flights. He was doing thought transference exercise with Sherman and Ford here in the southern United States from the other side of the moon. It was written up in a magazine. He was an interesting guy. I took him to Toronto one time for a speaking engagement. There's a funny side to it. We had the whole back was a huge big screen. It was just a shot of the moon, and he was walking back and forth in front of the moon, the man on the moon. And he told the audience, he said, you know, coming back from the moon, he said, I sat and looked out one of the windows, and I could see the earth spinning down there in the darkness. He said, I had a euphoric experience. He said, I thank God for opening the gates of heaven and letting me in just for a few minutes. And I followed him in the program, and I said, you know, I had a similar experience to Captain Mitchell. I too had a euphoric experience. And I thank God for opening the gates of hell and letting me out. we were traveling different directions, you see. But Don and Marg's life was never the same, and neither of any of the kids. They were stuck. Now, the obvious answer to why people are stuck, you say, well, they don't have a goal. I used to say that a lot. I don't necessarily believe that anymore. You see, I have a goal. It's written on a card. I carry it in my pocket. I've done that because Hill said to do it for 58 years. Everything I write in the card I get. Now, what happens, you'll get a goal card. When you write the goal card, what you're doing is you're painting a picture with words. That's what Van Gogh said. I dream my painting, and I paint my dream. Well, you build a picture of what you want, and you paint it in words. Now, when I touch the goal card in my pocket, my sensory factor touch is affected. A light message goes screaming through the central nervous system. Whap! It's a group of cells in my brain. They're activated, and the picture of the goal flies on the screen in the mind. Simultaneously with me touching the card, the picture's there. The only thing that can grow is that you give energy to. That's how you give energy to it. Well, I don't think maybe everybody's got their goal articulated like I have, maybe. A lot of people do. But I think everybody wants something. So you could say that would constitute a goal. They may not focus on it, and they may spend more time thinking of why they can't have it than why they can or how they will. But they do have a goal. I don't think that's where the problem is. That's just where the problem is down here. I don't think the average person knows where they are. We were talking yesterday, and Peter was asking me we were talking about who am I? Let's forget who am I for a moment. Where am I? Don didn't know where he was. Don was stuck. Don was stuck in a factory working overtime just to get by. Never entered his mind if he changed his thinking, his whole world would change. Never entered his mind. And yet that's been stated by every great thinker all down through history. They've disagreed in virtually everything else, but that one point, they've been in complete and unanimous agreement. Now, what's the problem here? Well, people are stuck where they are because of paradigms. Now, the average person has no idea what a paradigm is. They really don't know. They don't even know they don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know I didn't know. I was just losing. I was an unhappy loser. Now, fortunately, somebody woke me up. Unfortunately, not everybody wakes up. I've gone into prisons. In fact, I'll share it with you now. I cut a deal with classification in Kingston Penitentiary. That is maximum security in Canada. Now, they've closed it. Damn near time they closed it, too. It's a terrible place. But at any rate, it was open for years, and it was the deal I made that I would come in, but anybody that wants to come to the meeting has to be able to come. Anybody. They said, well, you can't do that, Proctor. And I said, why not? Well, he said, some of these guys are bad guys. I said, no. I said, they just think they're bad guys, and you think they're bad guys, but there's no bad guys, there's only guys. And some are going in the wrong direction. And they said, you don't really know what you're talking about, Proctor. Some of these guys are bad guys, they're dangerous people. There was one guy, and he was in solitary confinement for 7.5 years. Every day he was in solitary, in this little cell. He got 1 hour a day in the yard by himself. 1 hour. And that was it. Joe Gardner. And he was a bad guy. He shot a guy in a holdup in Windsor, that's across from Detroit, and just about blew the guy's head off. But fortunately, the guy didn't die. Now, if he had died, they'd have hung him, because they were hanging people in Canada in that. And he was sentenced to 27 years. He had been in 7.5 years in solitary confinement. And I said, anybody that wants to come, got to be able to come. And I would take coffee, donuts, and cigarettes to the meeting. That's like baiting the hook. And they'd all come in, and he wanted to go. And they said, well, you just got, then I'm not going to come then. Either he comes, they come, or I'm not coming. You got a choice. Well, I guess wisdom prevailed, and they let them come. Well, he would sit in the back. There's tables at the back, and he would sit in the back, swinging his legs, and eating donuts and drinking coffee and smoking. He sounded like a pig back there. I mean, and I would say something very, very profound, and crap. And of course, he dominated the meeting. Everybody's paying attention to him. I'm at one side, he's at the other side. And I was scared of him. He was a big guy. I mean, I feel like a midget beside him. And this went on for a couple of months. I was going in one Saturday a month. And maybe for 3 months it went on. And finally, in between one time and another, I mean, I was scared. I was scared thinking about it, and I thought, I can't keep going there. I've got to stop this. And yet I've insisted that they let them come. They warned me, and I'm going to have to go in and, I was in bitch about it. I was in a mess. But I was scared driving. It's 165 miles. There's no traffic lights. It's just straight highway all the way from Toronto to Kingston. So I was scared all the way down. And I made up my mind what I was going to do. And for that 165 miles, I'm going to tell you, I was one scared driver. But I made up my mind I wasn't going to let this guy control it. So I started the meeting. He started his antics. And I don't know what I had in my hand, but I put it down, and I turned around, and I walked right back, and I stood right in front of him. And I said, you've got to be the dumbest bastard I've ever met. I was scared. And I'm going to tell you, you see this guy's body just tighten up. Now these guys work out, And his face went beet red. I could see his body. I thought he was going to kill me. And I said, I can tell that screw to open the door. He's got to let me out. He's going to take you and lock you up for a month. I can earn it faster than you can steal it. You're not listening to me. And just as fast as he tightened up, he started laughing. I guess he thought, this guy's crazy. Defying me. But he shut up. I turned around and went back. I was so scared. I thought I was going to go to my pants. I was really scared. You've been scared? Well, nothing like this. And so anyway, driving home, I felt strong. I did it. Well, the next month I went down, he was sitting right in the front. And if anybody shuffled their feet, he'd turn and look at them. I got more than I bargained for. He became the duty discipline officer in my meeting. And everybody paid attention to me, or he was going to look after them. Do you know, I got them to let him out on a special ticket. He had to report to the Toronto, the city police every week, and the Mounties, the federal police, every month. His wife had had a little girl while he was in there. There was a priest there, Bobby Gaudette, that had befriended Joe, and he went and talked to Edie in Windsor and got Edie to come back with Joe. And he treated that little girl like it was his, right up until he died. I went down. There's a lot to be said for ignorance. Don't ever just laugh. There's power in ignorance. I went down to the parole board and I'm hammering on the table. I said, you got no right keeping this guy locked up on this parole. I'm going to England to open an office. He's the best guy I've got. I want to take him with me. They tore up his parole, give him his passport. And he came to England. Joe straightened out. He was the best guy I had. Joe was probably my best friend for a long time. Now, Joe passed away. He died. And another fellow and I, John Canary, who's on one of the Born Rich films with me, he and I went down. John knew Joe. And we were so proud of Joe because he straightened out. And Joe's there in the, in the box like this. And John says, son of a bitch, he's got my cufflinks on. So you see, he never completely straightened out. But now, the reason I'm telling you that is Joe is in there because of a paradigm. Joe was a crooked character. Joe thought he was smarter than everybody. He thought he could just walk in with a gun and take what he wanted. And he ended up in that cell. I went in, and I changed his way of thinking. And Joe lived a different life. Paradigm is in control of you. Don't think it's not. It is. It is in control of you. Every day, 5:30 in the morning, I'm sitting and I'm writing an exercise with my left hand. Now, I'm right-handed, so this is my non-dominant hand. Today was 148 days. We'd given this out in the seminar, and so I thought I should do that. I remember I was only at maybe 20 days. I was going out on the road, and it's a thick book. There's 365 pages in this book. And so it's thick and it's heavy, and when you're going on the road, you don't look for heavy things to carry. You look for carrying as little as possible. And so my paradigm's working on me while I'm writing in my book at home, and I'm thinking, I don't really need to take this on the road. I could leave it at home. I can catch up when I come back. I don't need to do it every day. And then the other part of me saying, Proctor, your paradigm's trying to talk you out of doing what you said you were going to do. You said you were going to write every day, well, whether you're on the road or not. You didn't say it just when you're at home. And you see, you have these conversations. You're having a conversation with your paradigm. It's a demon inside of you. Yet it talks to you. Yet it tells you, don't do that. You crazy? Go ahead, do it. Don't do it. And it's in control. And you know something? 97% of the time, the damn thing wins. It does. And I don't care how sophisticated you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how religious you are. I don't care about any of those things. Your paradigm is in control. It's been programmed right into the cells in your being. Stop and think of how you got here. Little particle of energy from mom, little particle of energy from dad comes swimming along. They were in resonance, and that is the nucleus of you. And then for 280 days, an attractive force went to work. And all of mom's DNA and all dad's DNA, where'd their DNA come from? Well, their mother and their dad. Where did they go from? Their mothers and their dads. God knows how far back this goes. You're the product of other people. You're the confluence of thinking that goes back for God knows how far. That's who you are. That's why you look like you do. That's why you've got the hair you've got. That's why you're the height you are and the weight you are. You see? That's why your foot is wide or narrow. This is all programmed into us. Then 280 days later, we make our debut on the planet. And we become programmed by the people we're surrounded by. If you were taken out of an English-speaking home in New Jersey and put in a home in the suburbs of Shanghai, you would grow up fluent in Chinese, no knowledge of the English language. You'd grow up liking their food. You could come from an Italian home, you wouldn't never eat Italian food. You see how it works? Now, of course, you could take the baby out of the suburbs of Shanghai, put him in that home in Jersey, and the baby grow up fluent in English, no knowledge of the Chinese language. That's programming. We're a product of our environment. That's why welfare recipients, third, fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients. Paradigms. Now ask yourself this. Would you feel comfortable coming up here and spending maybe 15 or 20 minutes really explaining what a paradigm is, how they're formed, how to change them? There's a few of you that would probably do very well, and there's some of you who say, well, God, no, I wouldn't want to do that. Well, this subject is so important, you should learn how to do that. Now, I don't care where you are, I don't care what your social economic status is, I do know this. If you can hear my voice, pay very close attention to this. This is real, and you're not going to get it in school.
I hope you enjoyed this video. We put a lot of good information up here, and it causes everything in your life to get better. If you'd like us to notify you every time we put a new video up, hit subscribe and then turn on notification. Check out all our videos, and we will notify you when we put a new one up.